to bring it to what you guys are working towards, from the last interview with Jared, you mentioned measurement, mitigation, and monitoring. Kind of the three M's, or the three critical pieces to managing methane. Can you expand upon that, or break that down for our listeners and viewers in terms of how do these contribute to reductions, both from an industry perspective and a service provider perspective?
Yeah, that's a good way to put it, Chad, because everybody needs to pull the same rope on this. But in order to do that, we need to have really good data. And that's not news to the sector. In any part of the upstream oil and gas sector, we've needed better data in order to improve the performance, in order to drive investment into certain technologies. And that remains the case here in methane mitigation. Now, we've been in a more fortunate position here in Canada in particular, where we're seeing greater implementation of these technologies because the data is getting better, because we've got a new set of regulations that are requiring industry members to measure and then report on their performance in this space. And that immediately opens their eyes to where the opportunities exist, and then consequently which technologies and services they need to pursue in order to continue on that pathway of continuous improvement, not just from a regulatory compliance perspective, but certainly as companies ramp up their ESG ambition as well. There's greater focus on finding the most economic solutions in order to mitigate emissions, not just today, of course, but into the future, because it does two things. And again, we're very fortunate in Canada to have these type of pathways that exist as far as the carbon offset system is concerned. Because any pre-compliance activities now, of course, you can be generating revenue for these investments that you make into technologies. So you essentially can be generating revenue or banking on compliance credits into the future, or selling those credits to market today, generating some revenue and possibly reinvesting it into more implementation of these technologies to then minimize your future cost of compliance. And of course, along the way, what you're getting is improved data. The more technologies that go into the field, the more services that go into the field to give you your inventory, not just your equipment inventory, but your emissions inventory. Also provides service providers that do emissions quantification to grow. It also, provides better sources of data. The sector is getting, I think, a little bit better at sharing information. Some of it is due to the regulations and public information access, but others is really trying to share the information to really source out the most economic solutions. And those continue to evolve over time, largely due to some of the government funding that's out there. And we can get into that at some point as well.
Absolutely. And that's something I did definitely want to touch on here shortly, because I know there have been some funding initiatives and some new announcements over the past year with respect to government. But, just speaking on that data piece, as you mentioned, being so critical to moving this file forward, can you walk us through the 6 primary areas in methane mitigation that are being regulated?
Yeah, I mean, it varies a little bit, Chad, across jurisdictions slightly. I mean, but for the most part, your leak detection is really a critical one, that, you're looking at different frequencies and types of technologies that are required to be used